Hello.
What's up, Dave? How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm good, dude. Just chilling, hanging out, nursing my bad back with this towel that I rolled up, put behind my chair.
Get that lumbar popping.
Yeah, dude. I gotta pop something.
Yeah, I mean your lumbar, right? Nothing weird. Don't say anything weird. Welcome to Tome of Chaos. This is a podcast about crowdsourcing a religion that doesn't suck. I'm here with my good friend Dave.
Hello.
And our probably favorite returning guest, Madeline.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Hi.
2 weeks in a row. Feels great.
We just can't do one, you know?
No, fuck no. That's not enough Madeline.
That's not enough.
I have so much to say. Are you kidding me?
I love it. Yep. We're coming off the backs of our journey into leaving the church. And now, you know, it's because we're so professional now, me and Walter, the way we do this podcast. It's time for one of Walter's episodes that he's delved real deep into.
Yeah, I did some reading and some listening and some thinking on some philosophy. I think this is going to be like Walter's JV philosophy corner.
Hell yeah.
This is probably, if you're like a real philosophy person, you're going to be like, oh my God, this guy's
dude, if they're
so cringe.
If they're real philosophy people, they're not listening to us, dude.
Maybe, but no, maybe it's like, maybe if it's like Monet saw like a Banksy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and there's some kind of inherent value to, I don't know. Fuck
no,
it. That's
dude.
a dumb analogy.
I think it's a great analogy. We're the Banksy in this situation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're Banksy. No problem.
Yeah.
I feel like I hate Banksy.
Really?
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Is he an asshole?
He might suck.
I'll look into it.
He might suck. It looks like he does
like,
cool artwork and then fucks over rich people.
When I was 12, I thought he was super cool.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what all my feelings are based on.
Exit through the gift shop. You remember that documentary? That's so good.
That was cool. Anyways, this week we're going to be talking about morality and God's role and kind of all that kind of shit, kind of getting into some weird dilemmas. But before we get into that, we have a question. One of our friends, one of our Tomies, Katie, at Space Sandwich on Instagram, messaged us and said, what is your favorite thing you've learned so far writing the tome? And what do you still want to learn?
Damn. We've learned a lot.
We've learned so much. Our brains can't even fit inside our skulls, dude.
I think that one of my favorite things was Gnosticism. Like talking to Mark about that shit. And realizing that that's like kind of religion for people who aren't shitty. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they work really hard on like knowing the facts, you know, and like reading a lot of extra biblical shit that like I think our church like claimed to do that shit, but the shit that I've talked to Mark about is on a whole different level. So I thought that was super interesting, is learning about like just talking to Mark was super fucking cool. Every time we talk to him, I learn more.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, every Mark episode is something that fucking stands out to me. What about, do you have something that you still want to learn?
Transcendental meditation. I want to fly.
Yes.
I want to get on my David Lynch grind and like learn transcendental meditation and then teach it to all the Tomies for free, because it's a steep price to learn transcendental.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Dude, we'll charge 50%. No problem. You're welcome, guys.
Walter's kidding.
Yeah, I'm joking. That's cool, man. I want to do that too, actually. I think you're the person who would be able to do it if anyone could.
Really?
Yeah, dude. You get in one of those zones where you like either start a business or like pick up a new like life consuming hobby.
One of those zones. You mean a manic phase?
Yeah, you get in the manic phase, you'll be meditating like no one's business.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
I actually don't. Is that compatible? Would you be like too fucking going too hard to?
Mania is like hyper focus, so I think I'd be able to do it. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe actually no. Maybe it is different because transcendental is like the meditation of like completely freeing your mind. It's like not being focused. It's the absence of focus, I think. Quieting all things around you. But I mean, I love David Lynch, dude, and he does it. Says it changed his life.
Well, you should do it then.
He wrote a book called Catching the Big Fish. It's about transcendental meditation in his life, and it was really good. So I'm going to read that again because the last time I did, I listened to it as an audiobook, and it did not. I just fell asleep every time. So, but yeah, I think that's it. I think that, you know, it was really cool learning from Mark, and transcendental meditation is what I want to do. What about you, dude?
I really love just, it's gonna sound like stupid and not like a real answer, but just seeing everyone else's different trips through spirituality and just gaining more perspective on like how different your experience with everything can be. I think that's beautiful, and that's been like very impactful to me. One thing I thought was really fun to learn about was like when we had I can't remember Dave Outlandish. There we go.
Oh my God, Dave.
When we talked about like the different churches of Satanism and how there's like the kind of stodgy conservative guys, and there's like,
oh my God, yeah. That was hilarious. Like finding out that there were like shitty racist Satanists was kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's like all different. I don't know. It's fun to like see that no matter where you're kind of at, there's always these disagreements and differences in opinion. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a great answer. One thing it's hard because this wasn't directly tome related, but the 4 agreements, which we were going to do for an episode, really changed the way I looked at a lot of things in life.
We're still going to do that episode for sure.
We should, and I recommend all you guys read it because that book rips. Maybe it kind of sucks a little bit, but mostly it rips.
Yeah.
And what I still want to learn is I think I'd like to get a little more like into I'd like to have a better understanding of Islam because it's a huge blind spot for me. And, you know, I feel like it's a topic that gets brought up, and I'd like to actually be able to speak on like what is in the book and what isn't, rather than just kind of like being like, I don't fucking know when someone's spouting some wild shit. And obviously Bhagavad Gita, it'd be cool to talk to someone who knows their shit on that really well.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows like Buddhism really well, that'd be hype.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Get out of the Christian realm a little bit. It's what we know the best. So. Yeah. Madeline, do you have anything? You've been on a lot.
Yeah. Walter took all my answers, unfortunately. I was going to say that I am a sucker for just people talking about their lives.
Yeah.
And hearing people's stories and learning about people's lives. That's always my favorite thing. I also just love to learn. If we ever get into Enneagrams here, I'm a 5. So that just means I spend a lot of time researching and learning. So I just love hearing people's experiences. Sorry, that's the same thing Walter just said. Amen. Again, same thing almost that Walter just said. I would like to learn because like my experience, I left a Christian church. So
Yeah.
like and that is like the majority of the research I've done is like how to leave the Christian church and what to do about that. I would love to hear an experience of people leaving other religions.
Yeah. We need to find that.
I do follow a lot of like ex-Mormons, so it seems pretty similar. But other than ex-Christians and ex-Mormons, I would like to hear from and learn about other people leaving their religions.
Hell yeah. We need to get on that. That would be rad. Finding some like ex, Muslims or, things like that. I'm all about that. Hell yeah.
Dope, man. Well, thanks for the question. If anyone else has stuff they want to hear us like talk about or whatever, hit us up on Instagram at Tome of Chaos Podcast or send us an email at tomeofchaospodcast@gmail.com. So let's get right into it, guys. So I don't know exactly how to start this, but I guess one of the big things that I heard a lot in the church, and I probably both of you did as well, was kind of this tying of God and morality together as like inseparable.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like apologetics focus that was popular around the time I was in the church. And a big thing was like this argument that morality proves that God exists, right?
Yeah. There's actually, thinking about you talking about this, I remember that you were all about watching like Christian debates and stuff at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And like the apologetics grind.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm pumped to hear you talk about morality tied to God.
Right. Well, a lot of like Christian apologists will kind of lay out this. They do a few different arguments, but one of the main ones is like you believe that there's an objective morality, right? Like most people, I guess, would say, yeah, I think there's an objective morality, and they'll take that and they'll say, okay, well, if there's no God, if there's no thing that dictates what that objective morality is, then how could we ever have that, right? Like it would all be subjective if there wasn't something greater than people to dictate it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big thing of like, how do we know what good is if there isn't a God?
Right.
If the law wasn't written on your heart, would you be a good person? Probably not. We would just kill each other.
Right. Or like they would say something like, is child abuse bad? You say, yes. Like, yeah, everyone thinks so, right?
Yeah.
But how do you know that it's bad other than it's just your opinion or it's just a bunch of people's opinions?
Yeah.
That's subjective because you'll meet someone who doesn't agree with that, right? Or maybe what they view as child abuse is different than what you view as a child abuse. So then again, they're like, obviously, it's got to be God.
Yeah.
So
episode over. I'm a Christian again. Let's shut it down. Shut her down.
Well, I guess, yeah. What are your thoughts on that so far? Right? Like, feels pretty coherent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's like the gotcha moment for Christians, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's the one where it's like nobody can explain this, And I've had many an argument about morality and things like that and how, well, it's like one thing. It's like we're like child abuse is bad. 100% I believe child abuse is bad. But the thing is like that whole like the law was written on your hearts shit is real weird because we still have tribal people in different places of the earth that have a completely different morality than us. And like
Right.
things that we would look at that they do, we're like, that is fucked up. And we need to change them, like that's where mission strips come in,
Right.
and like shit like that. So it's like, that was always my argument is it's like, dude, there are tons of people, like we have the morals we have probably set because of our government, not because of some like dude in the sky wrote it on our hearts,
Right.
So
you're more of you believe more that there's a subjective morality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Which I don't think that there's an issue with that. I think that there's a lot of beauty that comes in, like, we're all going to agree on how to treat each other. And like the fact that we're capable of creating equitable outcomes for each other.
I think
is really cool.
I think there's like instinctual shit and then there's subjective morality, right? Like instinctually, it doesn't make sense to kill people. Like in a way, it's like we need people to help us do things. It's why we like became communities, So that's like instinct of like, don't kill your own kind of thing. And then the subjective morality is like, we should treat each other nice, like we should help each other out and give people free health care. And, so I don't know. That's my thing. Maybe you'll change my mind on it.
I don't know. I might not, but because that's not really what I'm aiming to do. But basically, this whole theory that Christians subscribe to is called the divine command theory.
Okay.
In moral ethics, and it basically just states that morality is God's commandments. God's commandments are what defines morality.
Yeah.
A moral person is one who follows the laws of God, not necessarily like, a person who's good in the eyes of his fellow man, just a person who is, follows these laws that are written down. Which leads us to a thing written by Plato, I believe, called Euthyphro's Dilemma.
Dude, Madeline's got the biggest smile on her face because I feel like she's read all of this.
Yeah, whatever.
Do you know this one?
No, keep going.
Oh, come on. All right. This, I fucking am in love with this. So it's like a problem for that whole divine command theory. And it goes like this, right? There's two ways you can kind of interpret the divine command theory. The first way is things that are morally good because God demands it, right? Like it is good because he says it is good.
Right.
The other way is you can say God commands it because it is good.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think for me, I, for a long time, fell in that second category of God commands something because it is good. And there's actually problems with both of these interpretations of the divine command theory. So if you're going to say that which is morally good is good because God demands it, that means morality is based on nothing but how God feels, right? Which I think feels icky, right? Like you don't want to. To me, I like read that and I was like, yeah, I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
But you see that all over the Bible.
Right.
So like the binding of Isaac, right? That story, he takes this kid up to the mountain. Isaac is told, you must sacrifice your only son, or not Isaac, Abraham is told you have to sacrifice your only son, Isaac. And as he's going up there, right, he believes that God is telling him to, or maybe he doesn't, I don't know, but he's going to kill his son, right? And if he went through with it, if God hadn't stopped him, we would have to judge that as a morally good action, right?
Right.
Because God said this is good.
Oh my God. So if he would have killed his son, it's like God said it was good. It's good.
Right. You have to accept it because it's in that Bible that we all say, here's where the good things are.
Oh, that's fucked up.
But
I mean, like, that is how, like, just hopping on that, like, first, I think it's been explained to me both ways, like, both theories.
Yeah.
Because, like, that first one, like, because God says so, was used to tell me that I shouldn't be gay. Like, there was no other reason, like, when you got down to it, when you, like, boiled the arguments, because God said so, like, you can be fancy and be like, well, like, sexual sins are the worst sins because this, and this, and, like, give me the evidence. There's no evidence. It's because God says so. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Like, that is an example of, like, how that's used still today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For gay people.
Yeah, and in that case specifically, it's actually the opposite, right? Like, conversion therapy and telling people to not be gay is actually harmful to them, right?
Right, exactly.
Which we would all judge as moral bad. But because God says it's good, right? So a lot of people...
Right, like, levels of suicide are higher. It's been proven year after year after year that conversion therapy is objectively harmful.
It's dude, that shit's crazy. If you, like, when you read about conversion therapy and then realize that it's still going on in this country, like, that's absolutely. Like, the craziest thing is it's like they still do this shit. Like, it's not done. Like, they haven't made it illegal. It's fucked, man.
Super fucked. But what's also fucked is that God says, never mind, don't kill your son. And then that's the good thing. It wasn't just good not to kill his son in the first place.
Yeah.
The morality of that situation has nothing to do with a father killing his own son and everything to do with if God tells you to or not.
Yeah. So it does a flip.
It changes on a fucking whim. And you see it all over the place. Like, there's commandments in the 10 Commandments that you later see, like, thou shalt not kill. But at the same time, there's God ordained genocide of, like, places. There's plenty of killing that is morally good within the Bible. So these commandments aren't even consistent with the morality that God lays out.
What is the Christian argument? What is the Christian argument for that?
I don't know. I'd have to find someone who's defended that point specifically.
Because that, like, that blows, like, I don't know why it took me until I was this year old to, like, like, just when you said that, you're like, oh, thou shalt not kill. But then, like, but when God does it, like, that's okay.
Well, you kind of get this impression that God's kind of like utilitarian, or that he's like more of a consequentialist. He's not like, so like,
well, I mean, he, like, King David was a warrior who killed people in the name of God, like it's like that. Well, that's all right. I mean, it was like the same argument, like when you're talking about Abraham, and it's like, well, Abraham, heard God. He circumcised himself, and then he carried his son up to kill him, and then changed his mind. And that's like the Bible verse. But when you think about it, it's like, Joe down the street heard a voice, mutilated his body, and then took his son up to a hill to kill him. It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you would say that person was insane. You know what I mean?
Well, like, I've always thought about that story too. And, like, where I am now, I don't believe these people actually existed, but thinking if those people actually existed, how fucked Isaac's relationship with his dad would be after that. Are you kidding me? Like, he had to grow the rest of his life up being like, my dad almost killed me.
Yeah. Also that in 200 years he can send someone and it'll look the same, and it'll be prophecy. That God
Right.
literally made my son, like made me carry my own fucking funeral pyre up a mountain
Right.
so that one day people can be like, predictive prophecy, the Bible's real.
Right.
Look at this.
Wow, it's like
Mhm.
a little bit like, yeah.
I think,
He's
yeah,
probably
this
traumatized.
question of morals is real weird. It's like, you know, I said earlier that I got on TikTok and it was like the first video I responded to was like this woman who was like, I was an atheist until I saw Jesus sitting on my couch.
Mhm.
And I like made a joke about it. And people were
Mhm.
like, don't do that. That's fucked up. And it's like, none of you like are reaching out to help like people who have like mental disorders. You just like
Right.
judge them
Right.
for hearing voices or seeing things or saying crazy things in the street or yelling things that seem, you know, off the wall. But it's like when people do that for God, totally fine. People can scream in tongues in a church, not crazy.
Mhm.
People can hear God talk and tell them things. You know, Madeline said in the last episode, God told someone that she couldn't do something, so she didn't get to do it. And it's like,
Mhm.
like he audibly told you that, but in any other medical sciences, if you're hearing that, that's schizophrenia,
Right.
you know?
Oh, for sure. But it's also when you're God, right? Like we are so about stigmatizing
Oh,
or
for
like
sure.
calling out other people saying my God said to do this,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
Like you
People
think of
kept,
acts of terrorism in the name of Islam, and you're like, people have no problem being like, well, that's fucked up. I
Yeah.
don't care who you are. But you have George Bush at the same time saying, God told me to invade Iran or Iraq. I can't remember which one it was at the time, but like literally,
yeah.
God told me to
Right.
do this. It's the right action.
And people just accepted it.
People loved it.
Yeah. Joe
Yeah.
Biden might have said the same thing about Syria.
Might have. I don't know if I heard him say that personally.
Well, he's just a big Catholic dude, so I just didn't know.
Yes.
Fuck that.
So yeah, I mean, I think that, I just think that it's weird, man. The morals in the like people automatically assume I'm an atheist because I talk shit about Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's more gods out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just your God.
Yeah, there's more conceptions to God for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that this kind of leads us to the second one, right? If we're going to believe there's a good God, we kind of go to this thing of like, okay,
Mhm.
well, maybe God commands something because it is good. Like maybe the case with Isaac and all that. Maybe it was like he knew the outcome, so in the long run he was commanding it because it was good. Not he doesn't command what is good. It's because it's good and he knows what's best for us. So that's why he does these things.
Yeah.
Which sounds good, right?
Yeah, I guess it sounds a little bit better than the first one, but I think that there's
But
a
you know
fucking
what,
but. Yeah.
It's fucked. Because here's why that's totally fucked. Is it implies that morality is greater than God.
Right.
If God
Jesus
rules,
Christ, dude. You just made God warm up a burrito so hot he couldn't hold.
literally. That's what he does though, right? If we do this, if we refuse to accept that version of God, that morality is just on his whim, it's his rules that he made up for us and they change whenever he wants them to change and stay the same when he wants them to stay the same, then if we don't want to accept that, we have to accept that there is a morality outside of God, a greater thing that even he has to adhere to, which destroys this entire concept. But I think if we're honest with us and with ourselves when we were in the church, I would say that was where I was.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, same.
Um,
Even just to feel like okay about what I was believing, it would have to be like I had to be okay. I had this God who people tell me has so much power and so much control. Like I couldn't have maintained in that community, or like in whatever you feel like is a relationship with God, if I wasn't believing that like he has to be good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But
Right, but it's just like it always boils back down to, and like this was always demonized for us of like you're just trying to make yourself feel better or whatever. But that's what everyone does, and that's what we do, and why can't we be honest about that? But yeah, but that's what I was doing all the time, and now I feel fine about it. But then if I had realized that, I would be like, I need to figure this out. But
yeah.
mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of like, it's wild to realize that it's a fallacy. You know, I spent my time justifying things to myself with this fallacy. And I think that there's a lot of people out. The reason I bring this up is not to just be like, let's fucking talk about loopholes about how God made a boulder that's too big for him to push. It's more about, I know because I was there that there are people in that church and in other churches, I'm sure, that have moral beliefs that the God of the Bible opposes. And they are all allowing that to be the case in this belief of there is a greater good that he is aiming for. But that's inherently wrong. And when you pick and choose that kind of stuff, you might as well pick and choose some more shit and create a church that's more welcoming and loving to people, instead of trying to adhere to this standard that you don't even believe is the case. Like, if you're really willing to lay it out there and say, I believe in this because God says it and not because I think that it's right or wrong, then good for you. But one of the things that attracted me to the Bible was like, I had these senses of morals and good and bad. And I was like, here's a thing that explains it. Here's a thing that adheres to that, until it didn't. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's like, if you believe in God and you need there to be a God for there to be morality, that's fine. But look at what morality it's leading you to, and if it's the one you want to choose to live your life through. Because we pick and choose all over the place, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I was surrounded by a lot of people that fell on the camp of like, I do this because God says so, and this is good because God says so. And like my morals and a lot of people that I'm now today and my values state that like trans kids, gay kids should not be murdered or like commit suicide at the heights that they do. That would go against God's morals. I'm putting air quotes around that, but like the God of the Bible's morals, or the Bible's morals, or our Christian morals, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, I think it makes people feel good to have that power and to say like, oh, I believe the right thing. And if you don't, then I'm better than you. And like, that's how it felt to me when those people were saying those things to me. Like, okay, you think you're better than me. Yeah. Like, okay. Like, yeah, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel moral. And then what they would say back to me was like, it's not about your feelings. And it just, it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. I had people, I remember being like, if my kids grow up and they're trans or gay or whatever, what should I say to them? Your recommendation, right? Because I was like, I'm going to say the Bible's fake. You're fine. Right. What's your recommendation? Right. And then they'd be like, well, I would say, I love you no matter what. I love you unconditionally. I don't really know that much. You should figure that out with God. And it's like, there's something about that it's like, you know, in your heart and you know, in the statistics that that's not what you want to say. And so you're hiding behind this like go talk to God about it, shit, because you can't just say my morals don't line up with the Bible. It's okay. Yeah. That's the thing I'm trying to get at. It's like, they don't, and that's okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. I think that, and I don't know if anybody thinks that deeply about it in a big way. I think that, because it's like when you grow up in it, it's just like, well, God's morally good and just, and it's fine. But when you start breaking down the differences of what God, like what morality means for God, that's where it gets really hard. I've never thought of it that way, and now you just created a bunch of problems in my own being. You know what I mean? Like let alone like when I was in the church, you know. I think that, yeah, I mean, I have always had those problems. I mean, there's like, do you guys, Lewis's trilemma? It's,
No.
C.S. Lewis has this trilemma that's like either Christ was a liar, or he was a lunatic, or he's Lord. There's no other way.
Lunatic.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Liar, Lord, or lunatic. And it's this whole thing of like, either he was lying. Could he lie? No, he couldn't lie about this. Predictive prophecy. Or he was a lunatic. But if he was a lunatic, then how would he have gotten all this predictive prophecy right? So he must be Lord. And I used to think about that, and I was like, what a good argument. That's great. Yep, that's what I'm going to tell people. You know what I mean? Until you get hit with like the other trilemmas where it's like, is God good? So if God's good, then evil shouldn't exist, right? Like, I don't know that trilemma perfectly, but it's basically like there's God, he's good. Can he stop evil? Yes. So a God that allows evil and doesn't get rid of it, would that be God, or could he not get rid of it? And it's this whole argument of like that morality of God, of like, why the fuck would an omnipotent being, an omniscient being, allow all this evil to happen? Because if he allows that evil, does that make him evil? Like, does it, if I can stop something from happening and I don't do it, does that make me a problem? Right. Or at least an accessory to the crime.
Yeah.
And I think that often it's hard to work around those, because I don't think there is a workaround. It's like God is a moral monster. And it's like, and you can't have an argument of like, all right, well, he knew that killing in this time would be good, so he allowed it to happen.
Yeah. What's funny too is I was speaking on the problem of evil, as I just saw this, somebody wrote this thing about how basically all of the arguments about why God would allow evil can be just inverted for an evil God allowing good in the world.
Yeah.
So like, if you're like, there's an all-loving God, why is there evil? You could also say there's an all-evil God, why is he allowing good? And just reverse the arguments, and it's just as plausible. So that argument really doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And then like, to explain it away, we just put the responsibility on ourselves. Like, we hold ourselves and like ourselves as humans to a higher standard of God. Like, I have to be perfect and I have to listen to what he says, but he can do whatever the hell he wants. Which I believed was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. He's God. I don't believe that anymore. I think that is horrific and abusive, but it's, like, to explain that away, we just put the responsibility on ourselves and hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Right. And we hold ourselves to the standard of this book that he doesn't even hold to. Standard.
That's what I was going to say, is like, we're holding ourselves to standards that God doesn't hold for himself.
or us.
Yeah.
Like what we really should be doing, if we really believe what is good is what God commands, is we should pray every day saying like, what do you want me to do? Interpret whatever messages we get and then do that. Don't even fucking worry about what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's what all the people in the Bible did.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't go like, here's what the rules say. They said like, well, God, I fucking had this vision. And he said, now you can eat every animal on the planet. No problem, buddy. Go for it. And then I knew that was morally good.
Yeah. Divorce is not fine, and now divorce is fine. There's a lot of big differences. Like, there's a lot of things that change in the Bible, which, like, I used to hear that argument all the time from atheists, who are like, dude, there's just inconsistencies. And I'm like, no, there's not. And it's like, no, dude, God did flip on a dime. You know what I mean? Like, his entire message is flips on a dime. And what came first, like the chicken or the egg? Like, what was it first? Was it morally okay? Now it's not, Yeah, dude, that fucked my head up.
Dude, there's even more fucked up shit too. This is like another one of those, if God can move, build a boulder, he can't move type things.
I love it.
But this, like, basically there's an argument that divine command theory, even if you believe that it is morally good because God says it is morally good, it's basically a feedback loop of like, you believe that he has authority because he tells you he has authority, kind of thing. If there's no morality that he has to adhere to, then the morality is subjective, and it being good to follow him is only good because he says it is good. And it's kind of circular logic at that point. So in that case, it would be just completely incoherent to believe in divine command theory at all.
Because if God just says he has the authority over things.
Yeah, the only reason it's good to obey him is because he says it's good to obey him. It's circular logic.
Yeah.
If morality isn't an objective thing outside of God, and instead is a thing that he enforces, it kind of loses its meaning.
That's that like same argument. It's like, well, and this is like the free will thing, so we don't have to go super deep. I need to do a bunch of research on free will and all that shit. But I think that, one of the things is like, you can program a robot to say I love you to you, but it doesn't mean it loves you. You know what I mean? Right. And like that's what people say of like Christianity is, it's like you have to want to love God. You know what I mean? He couldn't just make you love him. But he like doesn't he make us love him? Like, because if we don't, you go to hell. You know what I mean? It's like we can't, like, there's no decision that's not his decision,
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's still a choice at the end of the day, but it is a pretty slanted and shitty choice.
Yeah.
Right. It's a choice with a huge consequence. That was like another thing I had realized I was leaving. And even now, just like where my morals, values differed was, every week I was told that like, this is a free gift and this is a choice and God loves you unconditionally and you don't have to do anything, whatever. But there's a condition there and there is a huge punishment there that is held over our head in this theology. I know now that like there's a lot of Christians that don't believe in hell and are fine with themselves. And I love that. Love that for them. But in my world, hell was a real huge thing. And it was my responsibility to save myself and other people. And I guess you could call it kind of a free gift, but there was a huge pressure for the gift. It was not like, if we're talking about a lot of people in our culture now, like consent is a big value, a big moral that we hold. Not a lot of consent there. Like, not a lot of like, there was a big a lot of coercion, a lot of punishment was held over those like free will decisions or like choices with our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. I think it's a hard thing to wrestle with, morality. And just saying it's subjective probably feels shitty to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But you don't have to believe it is. There are ways to, I mean, one, it could just not be the Christian God of the Bible, right? There could be some other God. It could be like a collective entity of all of us that actually dictates, you know, a moral good. But there's also systems of creating morality. Like there's philosophy of ethics. You can look into people like Kant, Immanuel Kant. He had a theory that basically went like the choice to act morally is what morality is. I'm not saying I even agree with this. I'm just saying people have worked through this stuff and come up with systems. And it is actually like the will of, if I do this thing, would I will for everyone to do it? Like lying. Is it morally right for me to lie? Well, would I will for everyone to lie? No, because then it doesn't, not even is it creates, you know, a shitty world, but it doesn't even work. Then lying even loses its strength. It's not even a useful tool anymore if everyone does it. Like there are ways that we can look at morality in an objective sense and actually come up with our own choices. And I think that it's fine to do that and also be a Christian. I think that's the thing. Like if you're not ready to just be like, well, these things aren't coherent, you can take what you know to be right and wrong in this life, and you can take the Bible and say, you know, I have the Holy Spirit. Morality is what God says it is, and he tells people individually what he thinks is right and wrong all the time. So I feel like this is right.
Yeah.
And you're good. You know what I mean? You don't have to fucking go around believing some shit that eats you up inside.
Yeah.
Believing something that you think is morally wrong. You can reject that and you'll be okay.
Yeah. Dude, I think that's super rad. I think that for so long I was trying to put myself in that box of like, this is what God says, so I got to kind of be cool with it, or trying to explain it away, giving myself cognitive dissonance, you know, so that like I just didn't accept certain things about the Bible. And it's like I could have just been like, these are my morals. It doesn't matter if it fucking lines up with your shit, you know? Yeah. I think that's powerful.
Hell yeah. Well, that's basically all I had for this week. I don't know if there's more you wanted to talk about. And
Dude, I'm good. I love that. I don't like, my mind's exploded a little bit. You know, I think that, I don't know, it just pisses me off more at God. Like, you know, why did you, you know, why were you so cryptic with your shit and weird? You know, like if you really cared about us, you could have just fucking been real, you know?
Well, be pissed off at whoever wrote the Bible, not at God.
Well, yeah, but you know, his divine word, right?
I mean, I don't think you believe that.
The way
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The way I picture it is God sitting down with like every dude who wrote the Bible, and he's like, all right, I'm going to tell you this story and write it down verbatim.
Dude, maybe God's just like some chill other shit. Maybe it's energy. Maybe we're all, you know, there's some quantum particles that are all entangled. And that's what God is. You know what I mean?
So what is morality if that's it?
What is morality?
Yeah.
That's something you have to define for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think morality is so subjective. One thing I always like to go back to, because this is just my experience, like people tell me that objectively being gay is immoral. Like in practice, no. Like there's no evidence to say that, and like thanks, but no thanks. But just like in practice, and just looking around the world, and even at your neighbors, everyone has different morals. Like there's no objective standard.
Yeah.
There's none. Like we could talk about child abuse, maybe, like just because we talked about that as an example, but also like a ton of Christians love to hit their kids, like spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of that is real child abuse.
Yeah.
So that's not even a Christian moral we can agree on.
Yeah,
Like,
well, it's like where do you define abuse? You know, at
Exactly.
like what level do you define it? Is it with your
Right.
words? Is it just with like anger and throwing hands? Is it, you know?
right.
Yeah,
No, but just in practice, it's just so subjective, and everyone, like,
yeah.
it's different for everyone in practice. Like you can tell me all day that there's some code that God wrote on our, we should all follow the 10 commandments, and if that's what you decide that like God's morality is for, just it doesn't in real life. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I've always been I think that everything's kind of subjective. Like when it comes to morals, I mean, it's like a real nature versus nurture argument. Yeah, you know, like in some ways it's hard to say, but
Right.
it's like
Right.
when I do look at like, I mean, you know, the killer looks at the rapist and says, "Well, at least I wasn't him." You know what I mean? Like everybody's willing to like move their morals one side or the other for certain things, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure like, you know, and you just take that line until you get to Hitler, I guess. You know what I mean? Like of like morally wrong, you know what I mean? Like just
It's always our
increasing.
standard.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's like, you know, murderer looks at the rapist looks at the fucking dude who fucked with a kid. You know what I mean? Like, and then that dude probably looks at Hitler and he's like, well, I'm not Hitler. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that like, it's like, if you're so willing to move your morals all the time, how could they just be so written in stone? You know?
Yeah.
And
Well,
what's that?
I was just going to say there's like, yeah, I think there's clearly a lot of subjectivity in how we interpret our morals. I mean, down to how like they're categorized. Like, do you know the terms like deontological versus like consequential and stuff like that? Yeah. So like in case somebody doesn't know, deontological means like an action is right or wrong based on its own merit, whereas like a consequentialist would see the outcome rather than the action.
Yeah.
It's the trolley problem.
Yeah.
Like if you push someone in front of the trolley to save 7 people, is that wrong or right? Some people would say, well, in the end, you've reduced, lives lost, so it's good. Other people would say it's always wrong to kill a person. So therefore, it was wrong of you to do that.
Yeah. And if you don't fucking push someone, then you just let 7 people die.
Well, that's consequentialism.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think that's the thing is like, even our ways of interpreting what is right and wrong on like a daily basis, not even like what we agree is right or wrong. If we all agree the loss of human life is more or less a wrong, like bad, but how we arrive at like, if you should intervene to save those lives or not is even called into question.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, it is a balancing act for sure, morals.
Yeah, I don't think they're easy. I think the thing is, and I didn't want to make anyone think they had to come up with some strong justification for their morality.
Yeah.
That's what I was afraid of. Like, you don't need to. I know you want to be a good person and you have things that you value as good. What I'm trying to say is don't let your belief in some old book dictate your engagement with this world while you're on it.
Yeah.
Like there are people that you can be actively helping or actively harming, and there's things in that book that I think actively harm people, and I think a lot of people agree are, but
Yeah.
they're willing to turn a blind eye. Don't do it. Look
Yeah.
at that shit seriously and engage with it with your morality intact.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that people are inherently good or bad? That might be a fucking big question.
I have no idea.
Just
That could be
thinking.
a whole other episode.
Yeah, I know.
I love that question.
Yeah, I it's just like I went thinking about morals. Maybe I need to look into that for one of our next episodes because
Well,
like
how do you even define good or bad,
Yeah.
right? I think like
yeah,
how would you know to begin with if people are good or bad if you can't even define what good and bad are?
yeah, for sure. And I just think about all the time of like people are terrible and they need God.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, man, I don't believe people are terrible.
I really do think that like at the basest level, we can all understand the golden rule. Like treat others how you wish to be treated. And I think that like when you're not so focused on like right and wrong, it really helps a lot to just like there are things that people say about like for instance trans people like especially regarding bathrooms. It's like you would not want that kind of concept visited upon you. You would say like give me the dignity, like give me the respect and human agency
Right.
to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's like at a very base level, I think people are very capable of understanding treat each other how you want to be treated. And I think we all, for the most part, want that to be the case. So if that's the question, then yes, I think most people are good.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that shit gets all fucking tangled up with a bunch of politics and religion and nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think and you know, whatever fucking bigotry, whatever else, I don't know. But I think that's not that hard of a thing for people to understand. Treat other people how you wish to be treated.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. This was great.
I hope so.
Yeah. My morality's all mixed up.
Well, that doesn't sound good.
No, dude, it is good. It's making me think real deep. It's making me think deep, you know, I think that's the thing. It's like every time you do an episode, I'm like, Walter likes getting into the philosophy of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it like blows my fucking mind, dude. I love it.
I do have a lot of fun making myself think about shit.
Hell yeah. So. Hell yeah. Well, this has been Toma Chaos. We love you all. If you have questions or anything, you can send them to tomachaospodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on any social media. TikTok is active because I'm fucking on it. I love TikTok. It's the greatest app ever invented.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's like, it's beauty. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of dirt on there, but I've curated my fucking TikTok. The Tomes TikTok is pretty rad. So yeah, you can hit us up on any of that. Rate us 5 stars. Be good to each other. I think that's
be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other. We love you, and I hope chaos walks with you all this week. Goodbye.
Peace.
Bye.